Every year without fail, I always watch the Lord of the Rings movies every single year because I love those movies so much, and I always watch the director's cut, so it soaks up about 9 hours, maybe more, of my time. But I like them so much, I don't mind. I don't mind giving that amount of time to these movies because they are so enjoyable. There's no doubt in my mind that they are ranked very high in the fantasy genre. They are amazing in every single way. And considering those movies were released over 20 years ago, they still stand up today. With the release of the movies, The Fellowship, The Two Towers and The Return of the King, toyBiz also released some toy merchandise to go along with those movies. And at the time, funnily enough, I worked in a toy shop and I remember getting these toys delivered, opening the box, putting them out on show and thinking, these look fantastic. I've never seen an action figure so good. The detail on them was amazing. When you look back at them now, not so amazing anymore. I mean, some of the figures do still look good, but the majority of them aren't great. So when I started collecting action figures, for the longest time, I really wanted an Aragon figure. It was the only figure I really wanted from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I just wanted Aragon, but the toyBiz one didn't quite look right. NECA did actually release an action figure statue style Aragorn and Legolas, which I did contemplate getting for quite some time, but ultimately I thought they were too big and there was just something not quite right about them that I didn't like, so I kind of opted out of that. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited, hoping that one day an Aragon figure would be released what did the character justice. And then it happened. Diamond Select announced that they were releasing the Lord of the Rings action figures. And I must admit, I'm not really interested in collecting the Hobbits, I'm not interested in collecting Gollum, and I wasn't interested in collecting Gandalf and all those. I just wanted Aragon in my collection. So I got him. And then after I got him, I thought, I need Gimli and Legolas. So I went for Gimli and Legolas and I stopped there. And although I do like all three of these action figures, there is definitely one which is the weakest link. And if you are familiar with these Diamond Select action figures, you will notice that I have made a very slight customization to them, which I think is a vast improvement. Let me bring that camera closer now and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so I thought we'd start with the Aragon figure, and you can probably tell straight away that I have added something to the figure that didn't come included when I bought it. What I've added is the cloak, the elven cloak. You see, at this point in the movie where Aragorn has Boromir's gauntlets, he actually had the elven cloak as well. So for me, it was absolutely essential to try and make some kind of cloak. Now, I'm not an expert customizer. I don't consider myself very good when it comes to these things, but on this occasion, I think I did a pretty good job. I cut out some leaves, some elven leaves out of little pieces of plastic, and I painted them up and I wrapped some wire around them so it kind of resembles the elven clasp, what holds the cloak together. It is a little bit off scale. I think in the movie they were a little bit smaller, but I'm happy with it and it kind of does the job, and I think the inclusion of the cape really does make this figure pop. Now, as we turn the figure around, you can also see at the back I've included a hood on the cloak as well. I did this just by taking a triangular piece of material, folding it and gluing it, I think, to the top of the cloak. But it's under his hairline, so you can't see where I've glued it. So it kind of hides everything in place. Now, this material that I used for the cloak was actually a t-shirt that I had in my wardrobe that I'd never worn. And luckily, it was the right colour, I think. I think it looks quite accurate to the movie. I was very lucky that I had this colour t-shirt just sitting there, what I'd hardly worn. Out of that one t-shirt, I also got 2 other cloaks to put on the other action figures too. And I'll show you those a little bit later. First of all, let's just have a look at the actual Aragon figure a little bit closer up. Now, as we bring the camera closer, you can really see that Diamond Select did a hell of a good job getting the likeness of Viggo Mortensen into this figure. It's not perfect, but it is very, very good. I'm actually very, very pleased with this. I think it looks pretty damn good. And they also did a hell of a good job when it comes to detailing his outfit. There's the Boromir gauntlets. He's even got his rings on his fingers there. The sword is fantastic. I'll show you that in a moment. And his coat and his garments all look amazing. The detailing is top notch on this figure. When you consider, I think it only cost about £25. And here's the back of him with his cape lifted up, and as you can see, the detail on the coat is astounding. They've even made it look dirty at the bottom. And the accessories that Diamond Select include with this figure are really, really well detailed as well. Really, really well done. And he actually comes with this blade as well. See if I can pull that out. There we go, and it's got some kind of, I think it's some kind of elvish script on the side. I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay, so that was Aragon, and now let's bring in Gimli, and I absolutely love this figure. Like I said at first, I only wanted Aragon. I wasn't intending to buy the others, but once I had Aragon on my shelf, he felt kind of lonely, so I needed to get the other two figures, Gimli and Legolas. And I really do like this figure. I think it looks amazing. I think the detail on it is pretty good. Even when it comes down to the accessories, just like Aragon, Gimli's accessories are just as well detailed. And as you can see, I have added on the elven cloak, which I made out of my t-shirt. I haven't given the elven clasp on this one because his beard will cover it up anyway, so I can save myself the job of adding that to it. I just made a hole in the top of the cloak and popped his head through, and it kind of holds it into place. He's got another axe here, and as you turn him around and lift up the cloak that I made, you can see that he's actually got some more detail added onto the back of him. He's got a few, I don't know what you would call them, like camping supplies, his blanket, and he's got a few pouches here at the back. And it is just really well detailed. And he's got these, I'm not sure what these are for in the movie. I don't know if he uses them to hold these weapons. But yeah, the detail on this is absolutely amazing. And surprisingly, it isn't the figure I was looking forward to the most. And I actually ended up liking it a hell of a lot. And when you bring the camera closer a little bit, you can see all the detail they put into his figure. And he has actually got a likeness to the actor as well who played Gimli. And when you look at the detail on the helmet as well, you can tell that Diamond Select really did go above and beyond when designing this figure. They put a lot of love and attention into it. So that was Gimli. Now let's have a look at the Legolas figure. And don't get me wrong, I like this figure. I do like it. It's definitely one of the best. It's definitely one of the best Legolas figures out there. But it isn't quite right. There are some resemblances to Orlando Bloom, but they are very few and far between. But they are there. They are kind of there. And it's not a bad likeness. It's just not great. But when it comes down to the detailing, just like the other figures, they didn't scrimp out. Once again, you can see that I added the elven cloak. I got a little bit lazy on this one, and I didn't actually add the leaf onto this. I think I put all my effort into Aragon and then kind of got a little bit lazy with the other two. On Gimli, it didn't matter because it hid under his beard. But on this one, I've no excuse apart from laziness. But I think just with the inclusion of the cloak, it really does make it a lot better, like the other two as well. Just like the other two characters, the attention to detail on this figure is absolutely amazing. And as you turn Legolas around, you can see he's got his bow and arrow here, which Diamond Select have put a lot of detail in. And he's actually got his loose arrows as well, which I thought was a nice little touch that you can slip back in there. If I can say one more negative about this Legolas figure, it's that Diamond Select didn't include his dagger-like swords, which had in the movie. But Legolas is more known for his bow and arrow skills, so I can excuse this, at least to give us a bow and arrow, which would have been atrocious if they didn't. These three characters are my favourite from the movie, so when Diamond Select said that they were releasing them, I was over the moon, and I am really glad to have them in my collection. I would love to know what you guys think of the inclusion of the cloaks that I made out of a t-shirt. Do you think it looks awful? Do you think it looks good? I'd love to know what you think. I, for one, actually think the inclusion of the cloak I actually think by adding these cloaks onto the figures, it really does make them look that much better. Now, like I said, I'm an absolute novice. I made this out of a t-shirt and I think it improved it. You guys are probably a lot more talented than I am, and I'm sure that some of you guys are a hell of a lot more talented than I am and could really do these figures some justice by making a professional looking cape to go with them. So give it a go. If you own these figures, try including a cape, and I can guarantee that it will look 10 times better. So before I go, if you did like this video and you like the content that I make, please consider liking and subscribing, and maybe commenting as well. I'd love to hear what you think about these cloaks. And until next time, I'll see you very soon.